Good evening, everyone. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now, Kentucky. And we have, obviously, a winter storm on the table here that's going to be entering the state this weekend. Sorry, just trying to collect my thoughts here before we get started. And we have a lot to talk about here. There have obviously been some changes we need to talk about with you. We'll show you the latest model data and the latest trends. I want to thank everybody that's coming into the broadcast now. If you guys would not mind, like and share the broadcast. We appreciate you very much. Thank you very much for that help there. Thank you for helping us grow and for helping us spread the information out as much as possible, because again, that information is changing and we want to make sure that we're keeping everyone up to date on what to expect here. So thank you guys very much for everyone participating on all platforms here tonight. Again, thank you very much. Say hello as you're coming into the broadcast. We're going to give it probably a minute and a half before we get started here. Allow everyone to get in and get settled in that want all the information. And again, we'll kind of just roll on from there. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to pull something up while we're waiting. Say hello as you're coming in, if you would like. My computer is going so slow tonight. I can't really blame it, though. I have been on it a lot. A lot. That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Once again, we'll get started here in just about a minute and a half or so. I wanted to get something pulled up here while we're waiting and allow folks to just get in here and get settled in. Obviously, we have an impending winter storm heading for Kentucky. Not just Kentucky, but a lot of places in the country tonight. But, of course, we focus only on Kentucky here. And, again, we're just kind of giving it a few minutes and letting folks get in and settled in here. Hello, Candace, Emily, hello, Destiny, hello, Cody, good evening to you. Elizabeth, Sandra, Shania, Ethan, hello. Let me go look at the other chat over here. Heavenly, hello. Anthony, Amanda, hello. Ceviche, Anthony, how are you doing, my friend? All right. I'm mad they didn't put you in the meteorologist showdown on Twitter. Yeah, you know, I was trying. But you know, they roll with some other folks there. You can't really be too mad about it. I think they avoided us because they knew we would win, but that's okay. That's all right. Again, I'm seeing a lot of the numbers still go up here, so I'm just giving it a moment or so, letting folks get filed in, just buying some time here. If you are just now hopping into the broadcast, you have not missed a thing. If you wouldn't mind, tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen there. Share this on your news feed so that way your friends and family can view it, and to help us grow a little bit as well. We thank you for that, and thank you for helping us spread the information out. We appreciate that. Haley, good evening to you. Kimberly, hello. Alex, hello. Jana, Christy, Amanda, Katie, Catherine, Leon, hello. How are you guys? Rhonda, how are you? Joan, I'm sorry. How are you doing? Gail, Caitlin, Tammy, Ursula, thank you guys very much. Welcome on in. Again, if you are just now hopping onto the broadcast, you have not missed a thing. We're going to go over the latest model data, the latest National Weather Service forecast, our latest forecast, and just take a look at pretty much everything here, kind of get you guys centered back in on kind of where we're at and what we're watching over the next 12 hours. I will tell you that the forecast, even though a lot of folks have started to make them, including us, are not set in stone yet, because the short-range models cannot see the entirety of the storm yet. And when they do, that's when you'll start seeing more certain and more specific forecast. Yes, we did go get formula, by the way, for whoever was asking about that. It was, goodness, Walmart was bare. The shelves were bare out there. So if you haven't already gone and got your supplies for the next few days, you better hurry up and get out there. Because it looked like it got just ransacked. But again, if you are hopping in here, again, you have not missed anything. I'm still seeing a lot of the numbers go up, so I'm just kind of giving it a moment here. But we'll start here in about 15 to 20 seconds. Hyper Kimberly, hello. Mikkel, hello. Rebecca, good evening to you, my friend. Yes, I do need some fish sandwiches. Guys, if you haven't been around here long, my favorite thing in this world is a fillet of fish with extra tartar sauce from Mickey D's. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and kind of just start here with the winter storm warnings and kind of where everything is at right now. For whatever reason, the NWS Wilmington office likes to be very slow with issuing out warnings. But in this case, I'm not too mad about it. But just so you know, for the areas up here that are still in blue, you're still technically in that winter storm watch. You're not in the warning yet, but you will inevitably be in that warning whenever they decide to push out the button. Okay, that's the only difference here. The rest of Kentucky, is already in that winter storm warning. And by the way, whenever that winter storm warning gets issued for the rest of that little corner of the state, Kentucky will actually be the only state involved in this entirely huge thing that you see on your screen here, where the entire state will be under a winter storm warning. It's going to be a pretty crazy day. But that winter storm is going to look different depending upon where you're at in the state. Okay. But one thing I do want to kind of point out before we really start to dive into the data, before we really start to dive into the forecast, I want to point something out here, because I know a lot of you are a little bit confused, or you're disappointed, or you're frustrated, or you're happy. Okay. Whichever one of those categories that you kind of fall into. One thing that I want to point out is that, yes, the forecast looks different depending upon where you're at. But no matter what you see this weekend, you're going to have an impactful winter storm. For example, obviously in northern Kentucky is where we expect the higher snowfall totals to be. Can it be anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half? And in southern Kentucky is obviously where these lower snowfall totals will be. But in southern Kentucky, you have something more dangerous on the table when it comes to the potential for ice. So yes, you're likely not going to see the huge, massive snowfall numbers unless we see a crazy shift occur, which I guess is possible, but just unlikely at this point. But you're still going to have a very impactful winter storm. As a matter of fact, I expect a lot of Kentucky to almost go in the sense of snow, then we'll stop for a minute, and I'll show you this on the data. We're going to have a long period of snow, a little bit of a break, and then maybe a long period of sleet and freezing rain and snow once again, depending upon where you're at. And again, I'll show you that on the data. But again, I just want to point out, for those that may think this will bust, for those that may think, it wasn't as big as what the models showed before, which is true, for some people. For others, it's way bigger. That's just because the models have been shifting the storm all around, because now it's starting to get better data in. But just because those totals may not have looked all that crazy, or may not look all that crazy now like they used to, does not mean it's any less impactful. Matter of fact, the National Weather Service continues to increase the impact risk in Kentucky, because even if you don't see the massive snowfall numbers, you're going to get something wintry out of this. Let me put it that way. You're going to get something wintry out of this, whether it's snow, sleet, freezing rain. So even if you don't see the massive snowfall numbers, that probably means you're going to see more ice, which is also obviously never a good thing, because then you got to worry about power outages and all this other stuff. So again, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right, but I just want to make that clear before we got started on all the data, that for different places in Kentucky, the data looks completely different. But at the end of the day, no matter where you are, an impactful winter storm in every single one of our 120 counties will move through. There's no doubt, okay? So let's go ahead. By the way, moderators, make sure we're clearing the chat of all the crazies that are in here right now. There's quite a few of them. Okay, just ban. No more timeouts. Everyone's grown in here. Just ban them. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the data here. But first... No, let's look at the data first. Okay, so what I want to show you here is I'm going to go through a couple of different models, and this first model is going to be the GFS model. The reason that I'm showing you this one first, hang on. You guys know I get dry a lot. Thank you guys again for all the likes and the shares. We appreciate that. Thank you for helping us grow. We appreciate you so much. Okay, the reason that I'm showing you this model first is because I don't think it's accurate, okay? This model is not really built to handle an event like this. That's something that you have to know as a forecaster. That's something that you have to know as someone that likes to look at models, whatever it is. You have to know what different models handle different storm types better or worse. Okay, you have to know the biases or the flaws of each model. The flaw of the GFS model, or one of them, is that it cannot handle complicated thermal profiles very well, which is exactly what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with here is a storm where it's going to be 15 to 19 degrees down at the ground, but it may be 32 to 34 degrees about a mile above our heads. That's a conflicting thermal profile, which is why the GFS typically in situations like this does not handle it all that accurately. I also think it's struggling with the low pressure placement and how many low pressures it's trying to show. So again, I don't think it's 100% accurate. It can be close, and sure, the GFS could end up being correct here. But I've seen this story a million times. We've seen this type of storm a few times, maybe not to this magnitude all that often, but we've seen this storm type several times, and we know that this model can definitely struggle. So let's go ahead and show you. By the way, this blue line that you see on your screen here, which should be black, I don't know why that didn't save, but let me change that to black so we don't have any problems with that. That black line that you see on your screen is the freezing line. That's something we need to pay a close attention to. Okay, so let's take on through here. Let's go ahead and get this queued up. By the way, the time frames have started to look more and more consistent. And I do have a timing map from the National Weather Service that I will show you here because I was going to make our own, but it seems to be a pretty good map, so there's really no sense in me making my own. But Saturday morning is the arrival time for a lot of you. For the western half of Kentucky, it'll be near 10 a.m. Or around 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. For central Kentucky, it'll be here, which is around 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then for far eastern Kentucky, it'll be closer to 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's the arrival time on Saturday. And again, the data is also increasingly showing that we'll have a wave and then a break and then a second wave. I'll go back through that, but I just kind of wanted to show you. Okay, so here is the data available for Saturday at around 7 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. Now we're getting to 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m. on Monday, and then it's finally starting to move its way out of here. So the GFS has it as a, what is that, about a 36-hour long event here with a little bit of a break in between. So a few hours where we may not see too much precipitation occurring. So just keep that in mind. It does have kind of a longer duration event here. But one thing I want to show you kind of as we go through here is look at the freezing line. That black line's all the way to our south. So this indicates that this will be a mostly snow, some sleet, and some freezing rain, but mostly snow occurring in Kentucky for this event. That's the GFS model's idea. Again, I don't think it's 100% correct. I don't think it's really all that close, but I will show you the totals it's trying to put out here just so you can have some context. And here is the totals for the freezing rain for this event from the GFS model. You can see that it's mainly focused in the southeastern corner of the state where it has Barberville at almost a half an inch, Hazard as at 3/10, Pikeville's right there as well, Somerset around 2/10, and then a little bit lighter elsewhere, and really no other ice besides that. I don't think that's accurate. Pulling that off, I'm going to show you the total sleet now from the GFS model. It's trying to show about a half inch to 1 inch of sleet in the southern half of Kentucky, basically south of the parkways. There's some drop noise or dripping. I noticed on the last. I have no idea, Bambi. I have no idea. But again, here is the sleet idea. About a half inch to 1 inch of sleet. Again, I don't think that's accurate. Pulling that off. Here is a snowfall idea. It has a widespread, basically 12 to 24 inch snow happening for all of Kentucky. Again, this is not our forecast. This is one model run. But I think it's important to show you this because you're probably already seeing it all over social media anyway. And so it's important to talk about it here live. I don't think this is accurate. Can this happen? Absolutely, it can happen. But I don't think it's accurate, guys. I just don't see 24 inches of snow happening in McKee, Kentucky, for example. You're too close to the battle line. And again, I know that we're going to have more sleet mix in with this storm system than what the GFS model is trying to show. And I also know that we're going to have more freezing rain mixing in because I think the GFS is just not understanding and not really handling the temperature battle too well. So again, even though I'm showing you this, I don't think this is accurate. All right. So that's the GFS model's idea. Here is the European model's idea. I'll show you that as well. Let me go ahead and pull this back here. Pull up our reflectivity and our freezing line. So we're kind of going to go blah, 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 blah. I'm just tired. We're kind of going to go through the same thing here. So again, that black line being your freezing line. We'll roll this on through, get it ready for Saturday. Here it is at 7 a.m. So it's a little bit faster than the GFS model. It's a little bit quicker, not by much, maybe like an hour or two. So the timing is actually getting pretty close here. Has it as a heavy snow starting off Saturday morning. By Saturday afternoon around 4 p.m., this is what it looks like. Has the entire state in a moderate to heavy snowfall. And then by Saturday evening, we start to see that warm line begin to creep closer and closer to Kentucky at this point. You can see by some of these purples that are showing up, that's some of the sleet beginning to mix in, starting to steal some of that snowfall away. Obviously, this pink is your freezing rain, and the blue is your snow. And the darker the blue, the heavier the snowfall. All right, so going ahead and continuing this in, you'll see that freezing rain line is lifting more into Kentucky at this point. This is valid, by the way, for Sunday around 4 a.m. That has been pretty consistent. If we do see a changeover for a lot of you, which I think we will, it will likely be sometime early on Sunday morning, like very early, sometime between 2 a.m. to like 6 a.m. That's when we would see more of that switch to a freezing rain or sleet for a lot of you. And for some of you, you just stay a very heavy snowfall. Forwarding this through to 7 a.m. and then 11 or 10 a.m. Sorry, and then by noon and 4, 7, 10. So one thing you notice here is the European model has that freezing rain to sleet line really only getting to about E-Town, Lexington, West Liberty, Madisonville, and then getting really close to Paducah. Just north of that sleet and freezing rain line is going to be some incredibly heavy snowfall. Incredibly heavy. And this is why I'm telling you folks, I've told you folks a gazillion times, so I'm blue in the face, no one's forecast is going to be all that great here. I'm letting you know. I'm letting you know. Okay? Now, I do think we're the best. I think we'll make the best forecast. That's just how you have to be. You have to be confident. But I'm just telling you, the gradients are so tight. So tight. And if you get any little sleet that mixes in for an hour longer or 2 hours longer, well, obviously that's going to rob some of the snowfall totals. If that temperature line comes 10 miles to the north, well, obviously that changes things, right? If it goes 10 miles to the south, it changes things. So there's not going to be a perfect forecast. And that's also why you're seeing so many forecasts that are different than another forecast that you're seeing. My advice to you has always been pick the National Weather Service and 2 local outlets that you like and have proven that they can trust you, or that proven that you could trust them, and stick with that. Quit looking at 15 gazillion maps, because all you're going to do is confuse yourself, because different eyes see different things, right? And also, some people may lean more toward one model or another model, and this is why you get so many different outputs. And what you're doing, without realizing it, is you're confusing what each person is saying. So this is why my advice is, even if it doesn't include me, okay, even if it doesn't include Weather Now Kentucky, pick 2 people or 2 outlets that you can trust in the NWS, and don't look at anything else. Truly, all you're going to do is confuse yourself. So again, the European model has, kind of coming in around Saturday, around 7 a.m. to noonish, kind of starting for everyone there. And then it doesn't really have a break. So that's one difference of the European model that the other models are showing, okay, is the European model doesn't really have a break. It just has it as one big thing, and then it's out of here around Sunday night for many of you, maybe going into Monday morning with a little bit of a backside shot there, okay? So it's a little bit different than the other models. Here is the freezing rain output from this model. You can tell it's a little bit more aggressive. Once again, that's because this model has the warm air coming up a little bit more into Kentucky. And it does show some concerning amounts of ice for the southern half of Kentucky. I mean, you're talking about 7/10 in Bowling Green, 7/10 in Campbellsville, 8/10 in Edmonton. For those of you that may have not ever lived through an ice storm, or obviously the more remarkable ice storm of 2009, I know you may look at these numbers and think, oh, half-inch of ice, that's not bad. That's nothing. No, a half-inch of ice is enough to take down a power grid. I'm not going to scare you and say that it's a guarantee. But if you see this much ice kind of showing up on the data, it's a high percentage chance that you lose your power. It's a high percentage chance that you lose a lot of the limbs off of your trees. It's a high percentage chance that you're not getting on the roads, because even 4x4 vehicles cannot get onto ice. Grainberg, thank you so much. I appreciate that. But again, even this small amount of ice is a damaging and potentially dangerous situation. This is what I was saying when I told you guys, even if you don't see a bunch of snowfall this weekend, if you don't see a bunch of snowfall, well, you either did one or two things. You saw a bunch of sleet, or you saw a bunch of freezing rain. So this is why I'm telling you guys, even if you don't see the big numbers, don't disrespect this storm. You're going to be impacted. It just means you're being impacted by something different than snow. So again, really, really, really concerning numbers here. I really hope we can avoid this. And by the way, we won't really know more on where exactly that warm nose is going to set up until a model named the NAM3K model kind of gets more into range. The NAM3K model was really built for a system like this. It does phenomenally well with reading how far north a warm nose comes. It does phenomenally well with the thermal profiles that I told you about earlier. And the unfortunate thing about that model, though, is it only sees out to 60 hours. So right now, it can only see out to about, I think, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. It can't see anything beyond that. Remember, I told you, if we switch over to a freezing rain or sleet, it would happen on Sunday morning. So we cannot see exactly where the warm nose goes on the best warm nose model until probably tomorrow morning. That 6Z run, which is like 3 a.m., will likely see the entire kind of changeover at that point. So, unfortunately, the best model that we have available for handling a situation like this really won't have a handle on the storm until tomorrow morning, which I know kind of sucks. You guys don't want to hear that. You want the earliest heads up possible, but that's just the God's honest truth. The best model that can handle this is a short range model, and it won't see the entire storm until tomorrow. So, again, that's why I kind of put in that post earlier, by the way, when talking about the forecast, that we would have a more polished, more refined forecast tomorrow. It's because I was waiting on the NAM 3K model. So that's the freezing rain output. Here is the sleet output from this model. It is also not showing a whole lot of sleet, which is something very interesting because all you're hearing from a lot of these forecasters is sleet storm, sleet storm, sleet storm, sleet storm. Well, these models aren't showing a bunch of sleet. Now, I do think this model might be underplaying the sleet a little bit. I think most folks may see an inch, maybe 2 inches of sleet, which is quite a large number of sleet. But again, it's not anything astronomical. Here is the snow output from this model here. Again, you'll see it does have some very impressive numbers, but you see the difference between this model and the GFS model we looked at. The GFS model had the focus of this big white band in Kentucky. This model has the big white heavy band on the northern half of Kentucky going into Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. And it also, in turn, because it has those higher ice numbers, has far lower snow numbers for the southern half of Kentucky. It only shows an inch of snow in Barberville, 4 inches of snow in Bowling Green, which is impactful, but not crazy. 3 inches of snow in Hopkinsville, 3 in Murray, and then, of course, we start to get into the bigger totals when you get along and just north of the parkways. 12 inches in E-Town, 16 inches in Louisville, 15 in Owensboro, 17 in Owenton, 16 in Florence. Again, I want to remind you, this is not our forecast. This is a model run, okay? So just kind of want to show you that as well. I will show you one more model, and that is the NAM model. Now, this model cannot see the entire event, but it can see out to 84 hours here. And it also does pretty well with a warm nose, not as well as its higher resolution friend, the NAM 3K that I just told you about, but it does do okay. All right, so let's go ahead and roll this on through here. This has the event starting around Saturday. Is it not going to load in the whole model? Let me see. Oh, no, it does. It was okay. That was weird. The slider doesn't fill all that lined up. Okay, Saturday. It does have the snow kind of coming in between around 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. So once again, that's becoming a very, we've said that 3 times now with the models. All of them have been 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., west to east on Saturday as when this is starting. It does start as a heavy snow. Does almost immediately try and switch southern Kentucky over to a sleet. I don't know about that. I have a really good feeling that this first wave here, if you will likely be all snow for almost everyone. But it does try and bring in a large number of sleet, or a large wave of sleet. This, by the way, is valid for Saturday at 4 p.m., 7 p.m., 10 p.m., and then we start to see a little bit of a break. And then 1 a.m. comes through, and then 4 a.m. comes through, and here comes the second wave. So again, this is another model that's showing as not an entirely one thing. We may see 2 separate waves here. One all-day Saturday, then a break, and then one all-day Sunday. That second wave, though, unfortunately, it tries to show it as pretty much an all sleet. This purple right here that you're seeing is all sleet with a little bit of snow maybe mixed in. And then, of course, your pink is your freezing rain, and your green is actually your regular rain. So this model is trying to bring in some regular rain to far southeast Kentucky. This is valid, by the way, for 7 a.m. on Sunday, 10 a.m. on Sunday. Here comes the freezing rain trying to etch its way up to the central portions of Kentucky. And then you'll start to see the cold air begin to fight back. But before that happens, here is Sunday at 1 p.m., where it's trying to show a regular rain all the way as far north as Litchfield, Campbellsville, McKee, Pikeville. I doubt this happens. But even if this does happen where it's a regular rain, we almost immediately drop below 25 degrees once this storm finishes. So even if this is regular rain, when this storm finishes, almost immediately, we drop below a flash freeze level. So anything that's on the ground is going to turn into ice anyway. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the NAM model here. Here it is for 4 p.m., 7 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m. on Monday, and then it's trying to show a lot of backside snow here. So this is kind of what my feeling is. As much as I don't like the NAM model, I think it's certainly onto the right idea here, where we start as a moderate to heavy snow, for most, take a break, and then we'll have a period of snow, freezing rain, and sleet, wherever that sets up at. And then we'll have some backside snow on top of that. That's kind of what history is telling me may happen here as well. So turning that off, here is the freezing rain output from this model. It is trying to show a widespread quarter to half inch occurring even all the way up in toward Louisville, Owenton, Maysville, has E-Town at a half inch, which is bad news for a bigger city like E-Town. Almost a half inch at Lexington, which is a really bad news. Hopkinsville at a half inch of ice. This is pure ice, by the way. So again, it's much more widespread with things, and it's not as significant. It doesn't show the 0.7, the 0.8, the 0.9 like it was showing on the European model, but it's still a very hefty ice accumulation there. So again, it's not great. And even the worst news about this is this model is right now is the best model to handle this type of situation. So that's even the worst news there. Turning that off. Here is the total sleet from this from this model. It shows a widespread 1 to 3 inches of pure sleet. Which I guess in this situation where it could be an all freezing rain, the sleet idea might be one of the safest. Sleet you can actually drive on a little bit. It's almost like pavement, like broken up pavement in that fashion. Obviously, it's still slippery, but you have some sort of grip there. So if we are going to end up with anything besides snow, you're obviously rooting for sleet. But 1 to 3 inches, in some cases 4 inches of sleet is a lot of sleet. It's a lot. And sleet also takes the longest to melt, besides obviously pure ice. Okay, turning that off. Here is the total snowfall output from this model. Now, keep in mind, once again, this model cannot see the entire storm yet. So keep that in mind. It's only seeing a little bit of the storm. And whenever we left off, remember, it still had all this snow to kind of come through Kentucky. So again, keep in mind, what you're seeing here on your screen does not include that backside snow that we may see from this model. But it's obviously a little bit lighter. It has a widespread, basically 5 to 8 inches. And it also cuts off the southern half of Kentucky, pretty much making them in a 1 to 3 inch zone. I don't know exactly if this model's handling it correctly just yet, because once you get to the last stages of the NAM model, it tends to get really wild. Like, really wild. Like, doesn't make sense wild. And this is really far north. I mean, probably the furthest north of any of the models we've seen. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. Doesn't mean that it's right. But it's the furthest north of any model that we've seen. By the way, if you're looking at this and thinking, oh, that's not too bad, you got to remember, that's probably closer to 7 to 10 inches of snow, a half inch of ice, and 2 to 3 inches of sleet. That combination right there is, to me, way worse than 20 inches of snow, 25 inches of snow, even 30 inches of snow. I mean, you don't want to deal with that combination. That combination, first of all, it doesn't want to melt. Secondly, it is super slippery to drive on. Number 3, and probably the most impactful of them all, is road crews cannot do a thing whenever you have a layer of ice, a layer of sleet, and a layer of snow all compacted against each other. You can't do a thing. You cannot do a thing. So it's really we want to avoid this scenario. I'd rather have the 20 inches of snow. I know a lot of you don't like snow out there. You'd much rather have just a pure absolute dump of snow than whatever this model is trying to show. You do not want this. So, and that's not to scare anyone. That's just the God's honest truth. You guys know, you've lived here long enough. You've lived through a lot of these types of storms before. When you have, 5 to 8, 7 to 10 inches of snow, a half inch of ice, an inch or 2, maybe 3 inches of sleet. That's just a disgusting combination that you just do not want to deal with. So again, that's from that model real quickly. I want to answer some of your questions, but before we do that, I want to show you the latest forecast and whatnot as well. So let me go ahead and pull up something over here on my side real quick, and then we're going to show you the latest forecast that'll come out from the NWS office, and of course, our latest forecast as well. I'm trying to look for my list here. I don't know what I did with it. Where is my script here? Where is my script? Where is my script? There it is. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let's pull up our forecast, and then we're going to show you the NWS's forecast as well. Let me make sure both sides can see this. Okay, great. Okay, here is our forecast. It shows 12 to 16 inches in pink there. And I'll break this down here in a second. 8 to 12 inches in that purple, gray, whatever you want to call it. I saw people debating it on social media. Whatever you want to call that color, fine. The one between the purple or the pink and the blue. 4 to 8 inches in that blue, 2 to 4 inches in that teal. And then, of course, the ice numbers are right below or right beside that as well. Now, this can and obviously will likely change by tomorrow morning. Again, when we get that NAM 3K model in, the one that I was talking about, this is probably going to change. I made this because I was just getting hounded. And this at least gives you kind of an idea of what to expect, right? At least gives you kind of an idea. I don't think whenever we make our forecast tomorrow, it will change very drastically unless we see a sudden crazy shift. But that's at least what the forecast looks like right now. I will show you the NWS's forecast as well, but real quickly, got to thank the sponsors here. Because again, they're the reason we can be here for you guys 24/7. So I hope you guys consider supporting them. That only takes 2 minutes. When Kentucky weather turns rough, your tires, brakes, and battery matter more than ever. Creekside Auto and Tires in Elizabethtown has you covered. From tires and batteries to oil changes, brakes, maintenance, and quality used vehicles. Call 270-769-9690 and mention Weather Now Kentucky for extra savings. When severe weather hits Kentucky, your roof is your first line of defense. And again, I still have another forecast map to show you. Hyper Roofing right here in Hardin County offers one of the only GAF wind warranties in the entire state, and it's built to protect your home when storms strike. If your roof has taken wind or hail damage, trust I'm so tired. Trust the local experts. From planting season to harvest, Kentucky farmers depend on equipment that works as hard as they do. Bright Implement with locations across Kentucky provides the equipment, service, and support you can count on, rain or shine. When the weather matters, experience matters. That's Right Implement, serving Kentucky agriculture. Traveling or dealing with weather disruptions and need a safe place for your pet? Creature Comfort Inn in Brandenburg offers trusted boarding with the comfort and care for your pets that your pets deserve. And first-time pet stays receive 10% off when you mention Weather Now Kentucky. Again, that's Creature Comfort Inn. Kids grow fast, and Kentucky families need smart savings. Brian and I know this way too well. Once Upon a Child in E-Town and on Outer Loop in Louisville buys and sells gently used kids' clothes, toys, and gear at unbeatable prices. That's Once Upon a Child, and again, Brian and I love that place. If you have a child, that's where you want to shop, trust me. And finally, if you're looking to refresh your wardrobe without breaking the bank, Plato's Closet in E-Town buys and sells stylish, gently used clothing for teens and young adults for less. And by the way, those same local families own both or all three of those locations we talked about, and they're a phenomenal family. You want to support them. That's a Kentucky family that you want to support. That's all of our sponsors. We thank them so much for helping us out and keeping us available 24/7 for you all. So I really hope you consider supporting them and kind of keeping them on track. Okay, what I want to show you now is the latest timing map from the National Weather Service here. Again, here's the latest timing map from the National Weather Service. This is arriving in Western Kentucky at 5 to 8 a.m. In this little, I don't know what you would call this here, 7 to 11 a.m. in that color there, whatever you want to call it. And then in this blue, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. and after 5 p.m. for that far northern counties up there in the far northern portions of Kentucky. Look, I know a lot of you are probably going to be a little bit upset that the time ranges of the start time is very wide. Again, I think you have to remember that this is a large system. So the arrival times can be different because, again, at the front edge of the system, there's likely going to be some dry air. So for the first couple of hours, you're probably going to see it snowing on your radar without it actually reaching the ground. So keep that in mind. That's why there's such a large kind of range on these arrival times. So again, that's kind of the long range there. One thing I did forget to pull up for you guys is the snowfall map from the National Weather Service. Let me go grab that for you real quickly. I did forget to pull that up. I knew there was something I was forgetting. It's never a W&K broadcast unless George has forgotten something. That's how you know it's going to be a good broadcast. Bada bing, bada boom. Wait, I did have it up. It's just I'm just on the wrong thing. I knew I had it up. Where is it? There we go. Goodness gracious. What is going on with me right now? Okay, here we go. Here is the probabilistic snowfall range amounts from the National Weather Service. It does look a lot like our forecast. I think they're a little bit too far south with some of those heavier amounts, but this is basically from a model, not really from them specifically. And unfortunately, you do see very large ranges on here. Again, it's because the sleet may mix in and still some of it, but if no sleet really mixes in, then you have the higher ranges coming into play. So that's why you're seeing some very wide ranges here from the National Weather Service. But overall, it does look pretty similar. I think. Let me do this one. There you go. Now you have it statewide. But overall, it does look pretty similar to the forecast that we made, at least somewhat similar. Obviously, they don't have the 12 to 16 inch zone in there, but you can see the higher zone is along that Ohio River portion of the area. And then they have a widespread 7 to 13, which is a lot like our 8 to 12 that we have here. And then, of course, they have the amounts kind of dropping off the more south and east you go, a lot like our map here. So, again, I feel really good about where our map is right now. Again, it's probably going to change by tomorrow. If it doesn't change, I would actually be a little bit shocked. So again, that's kind of where the National Weather Service is there. I'll get to a few questions now, but again, I probably won't get too specific on counties or what exact cities are going to see. Again, I want to wait till tomorrow morning, guys. I know you don't like that, but again, we have to wait until the short range models kind of get a hold of this to get more specifics. Right now, we're still just kind of looking at the GFS and the European model. And when you have just two models to go off of, you really can't add a lot of context in. So again, right now, everything is still kind of general and broad. Just know a major winter storm is coming through all of Kentucky this weekend. That's the main point here. Maddie says, after watching weather for 3 days, I'm convinced no one knows what's going to happen. It's just maybes, throwing out like weather predictions. Well, again, Maddie, if you just listen to the last 30 minutes of this broadcast, we've explained where everything is at. We explained why everything is a maybe right now, because again, some models only go out 48 to 60 hours, and those are some of the best models. So yeah, of course, no one really knows for certain right now. That's kind of how it always goes, my friend. When you get closer, that's when you get more certain forecast. If I could know what was happening for sure 5 days out, you guys wouldn't even be here for me. I'd go play the lottery. It doesn't work like that, my friend. Crystal says, will the ice make it to Louisville? Could we have power outages from it? Anyone that sees ice can have power outages from that, especially when you get to the heavier stuff. Will the ice make it that far north? We have to wait till that NAM3K model gets in tomorrow morning. Then we'll know more. Jessica says she wants more snow in southeastern Kentucky. How do you feel about driving at 5 a.m. Sunday morning in Mayfield? Yeah, there won't be any driving recommended at all from Saturday around lunchtime all the way through Monday. So if you guys are going to ask me anything about travel recommendations, I would not recommend to travel anywhere from Saturday at lunchtime to at least Monday, at least. Michael said, do you want to go sledding? I just got 2 new sleds in today. If it does shift, do you think it'll be a northern or southern shift, and how drastic? Again, there's no way I can possibly know that, but it seems to be that the models aren't really shifting much anymore. They're just kind of refining and kind of fine-tuning at this point. So will there be a thunderstorm? No. Now, some people can see thunder sleet or thunder snow or thunder freezing rain because there is going to be a little bit of lightning involved, which is a really cool thing if you've never seen any of those, especially thunder snow. Thunder snow, when you see snow falling very heavily and you have a clap of thunder and you see a lightning light up the sky, thunder snow is one of the coolest things, I promise you, that you'll ever see in your life. Tiffany says, you are my favorite to watch. Very transparent. Thank you very much. Sorry, I missed it. When are we looking to see it move into Kentucky? Again, probably Saturday mid-morning to early afternoon. Are power outages likely? Again, if we see freezing rain in the amount that we're trying to see here, power outages are obviously going to be on the table. Bo. What would have to happen to prevent all the ice, and is it possible at this point, Dominique says? That's a great question. So what would have to happen to prevent all the ice is that we would have to have the low pressure move a little bit more east. Right now, a lot of the models have the low pressure kind of coming in right here through East Tennessee and then up into Kentucky. And as a result, when the low pressure gets that close or inside of Kentucky, it pulls warm air up with it. So what we would need to happen is the low pressure to go out here toward the Appalachian Mountains. That more so gives us much more cold air. It also kind of slows down the warm nose from moving on through here. I'm supposed to fly on Louisville Saturday from Denver, arriving at 2:30 p.m. Would you recommend I move my flight home to Friday night? Absolutely, because when you get home there, obviously I don't know if those landing strips will be open at that point. And number two, when you're trying to travel home from the airport, it's not going to be pretty. If you can move your flight to Friday, that's recommended. This thing shifted north overall a ton as I expected. What are the chances it shifts further north prior to start? That's obviously on the table. I really hope it doesn't, because that means a crippling ice storm for almost all of Kentucky. One forecast earlier today had Western Kentucky in the 1 to 2 inch range. Yeah, I don't know who made that. I see a lot of people asking about how I feel about driving. Again, anything between lunchtime on Saturday all the way through until at least Monday, probably more like Tuesday or Wednesday, I just don't recommend travel. I see a lot of people thinking I see a lot of people asking if it changes, will I expect it to move north or south? Again, I have no idea. No one knows if the models are going to shift north or south before they actually happen. It's not the storm shifting, it's the models adjusting. So there's no way to know if the model is going to adjust north or south before it actually happens. Sorry, my nose is itching. Here we go with the freaking allergies. Apologies, I missed it. What was the time frame for it to start in northern Kentucky? Probably closer to 1 p.m.-ish or so. Tech Social, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Says Hardin County here. Are we thinking no school for the kiddos until Wednesday? I would probably say until at least Wednesday. Brenda, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Bluegrass Anchors, thank you so much. Have a good night, my friend. Again, for anyone that may have missed our accumulation map, that has already been posted on the page. You can go check our Facebook or our social medias for that. Just looking through some of these comments real quickly, see if we have any more questions here. I see a lot of people asking about my totals, my thoughts on my totals. Again, our totals map has already been posted to our pages. Let's see here. Just kind of scrolling through. Could Lexington overperform if it stays all snow? Yeah, I mean, if it stays all snow, if this isn't all snow, guys, there's a lot of liquid with this. If it stays all snow, everyone would see a lot of snow. Yes, Sabrina, it will be posted to our pages. You can replay it then. Which model run are you leaning more towards or trust the most normally? In this situation, it would be the European model. But eventually, probably tomorrow morning, it would switch to the NAM 3K model. Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate you. This person said supposed to head up to Canton, Ohio for my baby shower from Mount Washington tomorrow. Would it be better to drive back Saturday afternoon or Monday to drive back? Both days are going to be treacherous. If you can come back the same night on Friday, that would be your best bet. I know it's a lot of tiring driving, but that would be your best bet. Hey, George, you're quickly becoming one of my favorite weathermen to watch. You're doing such a great job. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. George, has Bashir considered a state of emergency? I have no idea, my friend. I see a lot of folks asking about the temperatures after this. Let me go ahead and pull that up here for you. Now, I will tell you some of the models are differing on the temperatures potential after this, but as you can already see, this is the real temperature, not the feels like or wind chill. This is the real temperature projected on Monday at 1 a.m. From the European model. Here it is for Jesus. And these are real temperatures, but these aren't wind chills. I don't think anyway. Are these the wind chills? Oh yeah, they are wind chills. Okay, that's a little bit better. They are wind chills. Sorry about that. I was about to say, man, that is cold. I mean, this is still cold, obviously. But I thought that was the real temperature for a second. This is the wind chill. Sorry about that. I even got a little bit surprised there. But yes, again, wind chills and temperatures after this. This is what I was saying. Even if we do see a situation where You know, let's say we get some rain instead of like a freezing rain or sleet or snow. It doesn't matter because the temperatures after the event ends are going into the single digits or zero or negatives. It's just it doesn't matter what you see this weekend. When it's done, it's going to be, or when it's happening, it's going to be extremely impactful. Extremely impactful. It's going to be like a skating rink outside. It's crazy. Georgia's already ahead of Florida. I know. I saw those and I was like, oh my goodness. But yes, that's the wind chill for Monday morning. Let's keep this going here. Wind chills for Monday night look even somehow look even more brutal. Again, you know, this model, by the way, this model can only see out toward 144 hours here. So here's the model for Wednesday at 1 p.m. This is the highest we get over the next few days. Is Wednesday at 1 p.m. And look, still in the teens. So this is what I'm saying here is, this is why I kept telling everyone, yeah, this is probably the time, probably that storm system where you probably need to go ahead and go to Walmart and be part of the people that are clearing out the shelves. Because if you do see some ice, snow, rain, or a combination of the three, or not rain, but ice, snow, or freezing rain, or a combination of the three, you're probably going to be stuck for a little bit. Because even if you get ice, those 4x4s, those big, you know, bad boy trucks, they're not going anywhere. So again, you guys know that I usually stay very reserved. I don't usually tell people, but again, for this type of storm system, yeah, you probably need to be heading to the Kroger or the Walmart and getting your stuff. Because again, this is Wednesday, by the way, and this is the warmest we get over the next 5 days, 15 degrees. Again, it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. Okay. Will you be doing live shows tomorrow and over the weekend? Absolutely. 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 Okay. How much ice does it take to weigh down a power line? A spit of it. Ice, freezing rain is incredibly heavy. Incredibly heavy. It only takes like 1/10 of an inch to start really weighing things down. And once you get over that 1/4 to 1/2 inch and start getting higher, it gets incredibly heavy. I have seen my very tall pine trees before in the middle of an ice storm be almost completely on the ground because of how heavy the ice is. So Mason said, is there a potential we miss all of the next week of school? You know, if you get that combination of those three precipitations there, yeah, it's definitely on the table. It's definitely on the table. No, we're not expecting the high winds. Okay. We've been live here for 50 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the broadcast because it is almost 9 o'clock, so we do have some fresh data coming through, so I will update you on our social media, so make sure you check that out, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us, you do all that good stuff, turn on notifications, yada, yada, yada. You guys know it all. You guys know how social media works, okay? I feel like we've answered a lot of questions in this broadcast. If you did miss information in this broadcast or just now started to tune in, odds are I probably answered your question at some point. So make sure you just go back and rewatch the broadcast or kind of skip through it and get the information that you need. But again, I already have all that information kind of said. It's already posted. And I feel like we're at a point now where I need to go look at the new data that's coming in. So thank you guys very much for tuning in here with us. I appreciate you a ton. Thank you for all the love and support and trust. Be patient with whatever forecaster you choose or whatever outlet you choose this weekend. No forecast is going to be perfect. It's going to be a mess, and it's going to be impactful. I'll be back with you guys, of course, on another live broadcast tomorrow night. And in the meantime, we'll update you via post, okay? All right, I'm George Herbeck, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, friends.